From sleeping on the property of a Jamaican hotel because he was homeless to eventually becoming a sous chef and executive chef for Royal Caribbean Cruises, to serving celebrities like Janet Jackson, Cardi B, Serena Williams, to U.S. presidents like Barack Obama. How did he survive a rough upbringing, the transition to the U.S., and even thoughts of suicide? My guest is U.S.-based Jamaican executive chef Wenford Patrick Simpson. I'm Archibald Gordon. Wenford Simpson, welcome to Profile.
It's definitely a pleasure. Definitely a pleasure being here.
So the list of people that you have cooked for reads like a sort of a who's who of the world, really. So we're talking about Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Serena Williams, Cardi B. I can't list all of these people. Let me continue for the moment. Nelly, Nicki Minaj, Alicia Keys, Tamar Braxton, Missy Elliott. When you listen to this kind of list, how do you feel?
Sometimes I have to pinch myself, I have to pinch myself to really ask myself, how did you get here? Like the journey that you went through, and it's so surreal sometimes, and I'm so blessed and honored to be in the presence of a lot of these people, influential people and celebrities, and be able to cook for them, a little kid who comes from humble beginning and just believe in their self. So yeah, it's, up until now, it's surreal. When I find myself in the White House cooking and I find myself certain place, I think I'm so mentally focused on just delivering great food and representing Jamaican, representing what I'm about. I never focus on the celebrity. I just focus on just my craft, which is cooking.
So did you ever imagine this? Was there a point at which you were like, yeah, this is it for me. This is what I want to do?
I think that, like they say, you speak things into existence. And I remember when I was going to Marcus Garvey Technical High School, my teacher asked me, Miss Emmons asked me one day, after I chose food and nutrition as my career, she said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a well-known chef. I want to be a celebrity chef. I want to be a well-known chef. I want my food to be known all over. So over the years of me working from restaurant to hotel, I always try to perfect my craft in being in the kitchen. And me becoming a chef was actually out of accident. And it's out of accident, me making a dish for my sister and accidentally messed it up. And my sister started laughing at me and I start crying. And that was when I decided to say, you know what, I'm gonna show you that I can cook. In the middle of crying, I decided that I'm going to show you that I can cook. One day I'm going to be a great chef, and I just took it and run with it from there.
I believe that meal was that you poured curry into cabbage?
Yes. I was making a steamed cabbage, and while I was trying to take something out of the cupboard, the curry eventually spilled from the cupboard into the cabbage. So I scoop out whatever I could scoop out, but I couldn't take out everything. And so I just started stirring in, and my sister came home from school, and I made cabbage and rice, and I gave it to her, and she and her friends started laughing at me and go, look at this, he can't cook, he made curry cabbage. And in the middle of she laughing, I'm like, I'm sorry, I tried, it was an accident, and I didn't know how to wash it out or anything. So in the middle of me crying, while she's laughing with her friends, I just say, you know what, I'm going to show you that I can cook. I'm going to show you I can cook. So every day I go in the kitchen, I just try to perfect whatever I'm making more and more.
Now, we talk a little bit about this issue of, you've spoken of, speaking things into being, but in a sense, a lot of this was hard to imagine or even to conceive of in the context of how you grew up, a really sort of rough upbringing at the start. Starting out in Clarendon, what was so rough about your upbringing?
In Clarendon, my mom, my biological father left when I was probably about 5, and he migrated to Miami, I think, with another family of his that he took on. At that time, I was a kid, so I don't know what was happening. So my mom was there with me and my sister in Clarendon, and we wasn't real popular in the neighborhood, even though that was where we brought up. But we were more like the poor family. You know, my mom did the best that she can, but for me and my sister, being hungry was something that was regular to us. So like the next door neighbor, at times, mostly me, because my sister always with her friends. So I become the yard boy for a lot of people around the area. So I would go around and sweep up their yard and clean the pig pen. There was a lady that lived right behind us in Clarendon, Maypen, by the name of Miss Gloria. And I can remember Miss Gloria name stick in my head because that was one of the main yard that I used to regular for food. And I remember Miss Gloria, it's a big yard family. All the family lived there, cousin, uncle. It's a big yard. There's probably about like 15 people live in that yard. And I always eventually find myself at Miss Gloria yard, and they will ask me to sweep up the yard. They have a pig pen in the back, clean out the pig pen. And then I sit and I watch the family at the table, and just the togetherness of the family at the table, just having a meal and eating and laughing and talking. And I'm standing there at the back door looking at them, and I'll wait until they finish eating. Whenever they finish eating, they will probably give me some of what is left in the pot, some broke up banana, broke up dumplings, some gravy with a piece of chicken, and I'll basically take that, sit at the back door step. Even now I'm talking, I can see myself sitting at the back door step with the little whatever is left in the plate, and I'll consume that. And then when I finish, I clean up the kitchen for them, and then I go home to my mother and my sister.
Because there was no food at home.
There was no food. There was food at home, but not enough, because my mom was working 2 jobs at the time. She did the best that she can as a mother, but at the same time, with no father figure in the house and my mom doing the best that she can, for me was to lessen the pressure a little bit of worrying about me, more about my sister. So in other words, she would more have to worry about getting food for my sister, because I'll just trying to find whichever way I can find something to eat. And then by the time she asks me, I'll be like, Mom, I'm good. I'm all right. Just worry about Stephanie and I'm okay.
No,
So,
yes. You eventually the family eventually relocated to St. Anne, but things did not get better.
Yes, we relocated to St. Anne. At that time, I think I was about 13, and things didn't get better, because here we are now in a new community, new neighborhood. The community, the man that my mom was seeing at the time was from St. Anne, so we moved to St. Anne. And then after we moved to St. Anne, eventually the environment is like you jump out of frying pan and you jump right into fire, because the mother didn't welcome us. The mother didn't welcome us as a part of the family. We were like the outcasts. We wasn't allowed to come in the house. We wasn't allowed to watch TV. There's certain things that we wasn't allowed to do. And over time, they kind of relaxed a little bit, where I remember even to watch a television, because we never had television in the little room that we were staying in the back. I had to save my lunch money from school and come home and pay the lady to watch the television. So that's the only way we'll get to watch the television. We pay her, and in the middle of us watching the television, she just get up and just turn it off right in front of me and my sister, and just ask us to leave the living room and go back to the room that we were staying.
No, this was the first place that you, your mother, yourself, and your sister lived in St. Anne. You'd eventually relocate to another community, and I want to pick up the story there, but first we need to take a break on Profile. My guest is US-based Jamaican executive chef Wenford Patrick Simpson. We're back after these messages.